Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendik's Weather channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the latest this morning. We're going to be having a look at the latest from the model runs to see what they are showing for the next 10 to 14 days. From last night's video we were looking at the potential for a cold or very cold easterly arriving from Western Russia, which could move into Western Europe, and the chance of that this morning has increased with the model runs. We'll just get straight on with things today. So we'll start with the GFS, which is the American model, and we'll see what it shows. So again, at the moment, we have high pressure ridging through the country, pretty cold, but it's brought a weather front of some rain to many parts of central and eastern Britain through the morning. Other high pressure builds in from the southwest, building to our northeast, but topples under the pressure by the low pressure. However, by Wednesday the 5th, and 6th, this is where the uncertainty begins, and the GFS this morning builds in at high pressure strongly around Scandinavia. Builds quite a strong area though, 1050 millibar area of high pressure. We begin to bring in the wind from the east, and you can see this low pressure develops under the cold easterly, and within this there is some colder air wrapped in the -5 line. Nothing particularly noteworthy, however, it's just a pretty cold easterly. Little low pressure systems moving in, could be bringing in a few snow showers to east and southeastern regions, and overall it looks quite cold, with the -5 line hovering around the country for much of the run, which is pretty interesting to see. However, high pressure kind of sticks over at the top of the country, meaning it'll probably be quite dry and cold and frosty, with under clear skies, probably quite dry, cold and frosty. By the very end, the Atlantic's ready to move in, and we've got much more amplification in the jet stream as well. But high pressure begins to ridge out to the west at the very end of this run, which could show signals for changes in the patterns that we might see as we head into the middle of the month. It's a long way off though. If we have a look at the GEM next, then again, high pressure builds from the southwest to the northeast. It has another resurgence of building to our north. It does get to Scandinavia, and we bring in a proper easterly wind. Now, it does bring in the -5 line, but there's not particularly a lot of cold air because the synoptics are a bit different. But if you look at the very end of the run, looks like we could bring in more of the colder air sat over many parts of Eastern Europe. See how it's got into France but not to the UK, but that probably would make its way in, because the block is still very strong to the northeast of Scandinavia, bringing in the wind from a very cold easterly wind. Now, if we have a look at the ECM, which has been the Grinch model, um, then we'll have a look. So if you do enjoy today's video, it's going to be a very quick one, I'd assume, then please do like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Let me know of any comments or anything you'd like to see in future videos. Let's keep going then. So the ECM is very similar, with high pressure building to our northeast. They all do that. They all do that. So it might be quite mild through the end of Tuesday into Wednesday. However, high pressure then retrogresses or pulls out towards Scandinavia. You can see the cold air's wrapped to our east in Western Russia and Eastern Europe, and that begins to drag in a colder easterly wind. And this morning, it does. At the very end, there's low pressure to the south. That looks like a snow event for the south there. With low pressure rattling in from off the Atlantic, diving southwards, getting stuck in the cold airflow, diving southwards and producing these it's actually quite cold easterly winds with the -10 line just off to our east in Scandinavia. So it's pretty cold. And then finally the AIFS model, which is my favourite one, because it's the best at verifying, typically, or it has been last year. Again, has a very similar pattern with high pressure building over and to the east of the country towards Scandinavia. Brings in a proper cold easterly wind as well. The -5 line moves in. Obviously, it doesn't go too far, but the -5 line does move through the country. And if we have a look at the last night's run, you can see it does bring in a proper easterly wind, with the -5 line getting into the country and staying around for a long time. For a sustained easterly, obviously not anything particularly remarkably cold, but it is pretty cold. There's not much cold air to our east, which is why the models are struggling so much with this pattern. However, if you had a sustained easterly, you could see the potentials change. So at the very end of the run, it has a proper prolonged and blocked high pressure to northeast, and it's maintaining that easterly wind. Low pressure is trying to move in from off the Atlantic into that cold air, and that could be fun and games with snow and things like that. You can see the elongation as the system's trying to move in. and it's probably producing a lot of snow there. Now, if we have a look at the ensembles, then I've just picked Barnsley, not for any reason at all. It's pretty central. But what we can see at the moment is that we have above average temperatures beginning to move in with that southwesterly flow. Then a bit of a cooler interlude or colder snap, you could say, getting down to -5. And then again, a lot of scatter within the ensembles with some colder runs, not any beats from the east or anything like that, but then some colder ensembles taking shape at the end, which is when I expect we see this. But you could still see some between 7th and the 10th of Feb, I would say. Colder, like snap, colder spell with winds in from the east. At the end of the day, the models are still struggling to get the patterns right at this stage, but obviously things could change very quickly. Now, if we have a look at this one, this is very interesting. This is the GFS midnight run, so this is this morning's run for me. You can see a sudden stratospheric warming, or a very strong warming, significant warming, gathering pace to our northeast towards Siberia, and the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere is being dislocated from its typical position over the North Pole, and it's being shoved into Northern Europe. And again, another warming gathers pace to the southeast inland, above the Atlantic, and this dislocates the PV and also splits it. You can see it splits into two lobes. Again, I'm just drawing lows because that's just imagine that high and low, but that's splitting the polar vortex at its roots. Probably sudden stratospheric warming, and yeah, that's pretty significant. The PV's a little bit battered, and the other part goes into Canada and weakens, and then the other side goes into Scandinavia, the other bigger lobe. It's very interesting. If this did happen, remember there is a lag time of about 2 weeks before you get a response. Could this bring in the bees from the east? Probably not, but it could lead things to be very interesting as we head towards the end of Feb. Something to watch now, though. Models are messing around with it. With that one. So if you enjoyed today's video, yeah, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I do really appreciate all your comments, and I'll see you in the next weather video. Bye bye, everyone.